Hello and welcome to Take It to School with Dr. Tom Prichard. I'm your host, JP John Paz. With me, of course, is the star of the show, the former WWE World Tag Team Champion, 8-time Smoky Mountain Wrestling Tag Team Champion, one of the greatest trainers ever in the history of the business, the Doctor of Desire himself, Dr. Tom Prichard. Dr. Tom, how you doing today, sir?
John, I'm doing great, and I got to tell you something because we were talking right before we came on, and something I was going to tell you right off the bat. Do you know who Luigi is? The
Mario
pizza
and
guy,
Luigi. Yeah.
Primo, Luigi. Yeah, no, Luigi Primo, the guy who does the pizza spinning. He's in AEW, I think. Yeah, have you not seen this guy?
Oh, he's an indie guy. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, have you seen him? Have you seen
Yep.
what he's been doing?
You like that or you don't like that?
Well, it's one of those things that I'm noticing they're doing more and more. So is that what it's coming to? That was what I was going to ask you. Is this what wrestling is coming to? I'm sure some people really like it, but I'm asking you. I remember Ivan Putski, and Ivan Putski would play with the toys and be like childlike and things like this. Eric Tate, good evening. But Matt, good evening. So I'm just curious, and maybe you guys could tell me this. Grandma Daisy, is this what wrestling's coming to? I mean, I
I don't
watched
know.
I
I was
watched a little bit of it before while I was waiting on you, and I saw that they said he was in ECW, and he does the pizza twirling, and the guy leg dived him, and he put the pizza between his legs and did all the gimmicks and everything. I thought, well, Jesus Christ, this is what it's come to.
Is he in AEW? I didn't see
They said it. I was looking on the deal, the newsline, the Facebook. They said they showed a picture of whoever the interviewer is uh, with the AEW backdrop. Yeah,
wow.
yeah. How about that?
Huh.
Hmm.
I had
So
no
is
idea,
it? Is
but
it?
I saw him on the indie scene or whatever he's doing that stuff, and people were like, "Oh, this is a funny gimmick," but
Uh,
funny gimmick. What's the shelf life on it? I mean, we'll
I don't
probably
know.
forget about him.
But that's what I'm saying. Is that what wrestling? He was on TV tonight. The pizza
Yeah.
guy.
Oh, I
Yeah,
guess I
mentioned.
must have missed it. I'll watch it later.
Well,
Wow, that's
I
crazy.
just saw it on the Facebook thing. So great. I don't know. Maybe is that what it's coming to? All the way around? Because if it is, what's the point of going the other way? Unless you just go ahead and give them. I don't know. I mean, if you're trying to catch fish, you put worms on the hook. You don't put what I like. You're trying to catch fans. I don't know. Maybe you can bring powdered yeast in the good. That's a good idea. That's a great gimmick. But
I don't know. I don't see
I don't
a
either.
big shelf life on that one.
I don't either. But I'm wondering. I'm really wondering. Uh. Well, I don't know if you. Yeah. I don't know if you can bring wrestling. Yeah, maybe you can bring wrestling down. But oh my gosh, man. If that's what it. If it's. Well, it's already started that. But I don't. It just kind of struck me as a curious thing, and I was going to ask you about that before we came on. Then I said I'm ready, and anyway. So, but you've seen him on the Indies.
Yeah, yeah. I was just
Yeah,
like, kind of shaking my head. I'm like, what the hell is this? This
that's
guy's
that's yeah.
yeah.
But if people are buying it and people are into it, then what do you do?
The
Are
live
they?
crowd of the show that I was watching, they were laughing. So I mean, they were kind of into it
There
for
you
whatever
have it.
reason.
There you have it. It's a crazy time to be in the wrestling business or even watching wrestling. I think pizza makes people happy, and AEW needs happy. I agree with that, Matt. I do. I
Yeah.
agree. Everybody needs to be happier, and well, that's a mess.
But before we get into any more AEW talk or any, we'll get to some obviously some even more questions. But I wanted to talk about Stan the Man, Stan Lane, your former tag team partner. Almost, you were almost him, if you will, which is kind of a crazy story. But maybe that's where we'll start. But kind of actually, let's go back a little bit further than that. When was the first time you met him? 85 in Memphis, or
Yeah,
like that?
yeah. I think it was first time I met him. I don't think. I think I probably met him and Steve Curran for the first time in '85 in Memphis. It was the first time I went to Memphis, and Barbara, good to see you. Well, I can't see you, but anyway. But yeah, it was when the Fabs were on fire and business was really good. Dundee. My first night in was Dundee versus Lawler, loser leave town, and the baby faces sat on one side and the heels sat on the other side on the front row at the ring. And it was a hell of a house in the Mid South Coliseum, and they did that all around the loop, and it was a great house. And I saw the Fabs, how over they were. Uh, Ricky and Robert were just starting the Rock and Roll Express, but it was you hear the stories about it, but where they made more money with selling pictures and gimmicks than they did for working that week, and I could see that, and that's where I first met those guys, and Stan's always been a cool guy, always, and when Dennis left for that time in WCW, that's when I think Atlanta had bought Tampa, or WCW bought the territory, right?
Hmm.
Was it?
Yep.
It was WC. Okay, so and Stan was kind of just there in Tampa too. So when they acquired that and they needed somebody, they just put Stan in that place because he was already part of the family. 1983. Yep. So
You guys, though, the original, not really the original, but your original Heavenly Bodies, you and Pat Rose in '85 had a brief feud with the Fabulous Ones.
you know what? Yeah, and that was yeah, that wasn't even the original, but that was
Right.
Bobby Fulton who says, why don't you say call yourself the Heavenly Bodies? But and it was in a match with Steve and Stan in Louisville that Stan came over and knocked me off the apron, and I fell to the floor, broke my ankle. So there's a lot of intertwining facts going on there, and
Yeah.
yeah, so. Uh, And when I hurt my ankle, that took me to Pensacola, and it all led up to everything's connected. So everything had, uh, from the time I met Stan to the time we teamed up was pretty meant to be, obviously. And Cornette had always said uh, there were some people he wanted to manage, and Jim has always been a student of the game anyway, and he knew not only tag team wrestling, but he just knew wrestling. He loved wrestling at that time too. So uh, that was kind of a cool time, cool period. I'd been in Memphis for a little over a year, and Smoky Mountain was just starting up, and it was originally supposed to be Bobby and Stan against Rock and Roll, but Bobby couldn't get out of his contract or didn't. Yeah, he just re-signed, but. Uh, while we were together, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
Barbara wants to know who was more popular with the gals, Stan Lane or Ricky Morton?
I I'd have to say they both had their individualistic stylings, if you will, and I don't know if there was anybody who was more popular than the other guy because both those guys were uh, both those guys pretty much had their fill and had their pick.
Are you saying they both slept with a lot of women? Is that what you're
I'm
trying to
not
say?
saying that at all.
Oh,
I don't know the circumstances. All
oh.
I'm saying is I think they had their pick. The business was a lot different back then.
Yeah, that's
A
for
lot
sure.
different. But the world was a lot different back then too. And uh, what else can I say?
Have you heard
Well,
that?
no. Let me tell you something else.
Oh,
No, because I read this too, along with the wrestling with the pizza guy. You heard about Tyson and Ric Flair out in Chicago on the sidewalk out in front of the restaurant.
smoking weed?
I don't think Flair smoked weed back in the day. You know what I mean? And now
Right.
all of a sudden it's a
Yeah, it's out in the open, and they both got their own brands or whatever. I think the Flair Drip and the Tyson 2.0 or
so
something. Yeah.
who's to say the pizza guy's wrong? You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yep.
So it's just a different world. So when you ask me who was more popular with the gals back then, I think it was pretty much an even contest.
Did you hear that story with Stan Lane? How he may be the father of
Yeah,
Lauren Brobert. Have you heard that story?
yeah. Look, yeah, yeah. It was a crazy time, and I just don't see that ever happening again. I really don't. Maybe not like that. So,
Do you
but
believe he's the father?
I'm not going on Maury, and I'm not testifying to anything, and I'm not even going to state a comment on that. I think that's the leading question, Your Honor, and I'm not
All right.
accepting that. You go right ahead. You try and lead me into where you want to take me, but I'm not going.
Hey, Maury Povich doesn't live that
I did
far.
not see
Yeah.
him have relations with that woman. So, whether I heard rumors or not doesn't matter. We can't talk about hearsay in the court of life. So there
Hey,
you go.
Maury Povich doesn't live that far from me, so I could get him.
Yeah,
I get him on the
yeah.
phone. We can figure this
Well,
out.
that's what I mean, man. Everything. No, no, no. Because today, look, it would be it was a different culture altogether, and I look around at a lot of things these days, and I got to ask myself, would I? I don't think I wouldn't. Well, I don't know because I didn't grow up with the internet, and we didn't grow up with all the cameras and stuff. But uh, I don't know. I'm baffled. I'm totally baffled at some of the stuff I see these days.
Bo says you're not a stooge. Wow. Yeah.
Well, no, I don't really care for stooges. I understand they're a necessary evil in life, but I just, I'd rather not be in that position.
Hey,
My
Don
vote.
puts his vote out there for Bastion Booker, best looking,
Oh yeah, okay. Well, I
and then
think
Grandma
that
Daisy, R.I.P. Mike Shaw. Yeah.
right. I think Bastion Brugger probably he probably got his share too. I mean, yeah,
So you're saying that as Bo said, put here, you're not a stooge.
right.
So that means that Stan was up to something. I mean, he was up to something nefarious for
I'm
sure.
just telling you, if a lady wanted to hook up with Stan or vice versa, it wasn't hard to do. Not at all. The Fabs were over, and rock and roll was over. So it was a lot of fun.
Never heard of Bastion Booger being a ladies' man.
Well,
That I never
you'd
heard
be
of.
surprised. He had a great sense of humor, and ladies like to laugh too. So
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, hey, he's a funny guy.
But it's interesting when Cornette was on with us. I guess it was a year ago, a year and a half. I mean, it was a while ago when he came on with us. He was saying that you were almost Stan Lane before Stan Lane was Stan Lane because you were going to fill in for
Yeah.
Dennis Condrey. You missed the phone call, and Stan Lane became a member of the Midnight Express.
Well, no, I explained that earlier that when WCW acquired Tampa, Stan was already working in Tampa, and they acquired the roster and territories, and it was in those days, like right in that time period that Dennis left, and they acquired Tampa, so they didn't have to go searching high and low. And Stan was the perfect fit for there. He came in, he was a gangster of love, and man, so that was by far he did it. I wasn't at that point. See, Stan had already had a good tag team run with Steve in Memphis, so he was already in tune with it. He fit the part a lot better than I did back then. So it was cool.
Do you think that he was more equipped just in general to be in the Midnight Express? I mean, Dennis Condrey had some big
Certainly, I
shoes
do.
to
No,
fill.
no, because he was one half of the fabulous ones, and they were a hot tag team, so he knew what it took to be a top guy. He had already run that course, and no doubt about it, he was a perfect addition. He was Bobby was about 6 foot, Stan's about 6'1", 6 foot, even a lot taller than I am, and he looked the part, worked out, and he complimented Bobby's style. Not that I don't believe I could. I just think that they made it was a great call either way, and I don't know if I would have been ready for that or not. I really don't. Don't know why, but I just don't know.
Barbara says Stan and Bobby were the best version of the Midnight Express. They should be in the Hall of Fame.
I agree they should be in the Hall of Fame. I think that Dennis, Bobby, Stan, and Jim Cornette should all be in the Hall of Fame. You put the rock and roll in, well, who are their best known opponents and who they have the best matches with. They always, whenever you put the Rock and Roll against anybody, it was going to be a great match. And the same thing with the Midnights, because that they just had that feel. They had that innate ability to go out there and tell a story. And again, and the story fits even better because here you have Stan Lane, one half of the Fabs. There's your lineage to a great team like the Midnight Express. And
Who do you think is the best version of the Midnight Express?
you know what? I think that really is all subjective or objective. I'm not sure which is which. You know what I mean, though. I mean, it's how you look at it.
Yep.
And I think that no matter what combination you had, Dennis brought his body language and credibility to it, no doubt. But Stan also had the credibility, and he just had a little bit. He was more Flair than Thez, and I think Dennis was more Thez. You know what I mean, with the ability, but Dennis had the showmanship to go along with it. Stan had the showmanship, the sizzle, and he could back it up. It was just a different flavor of that Midnight Express. Dennis brought a grittiness to it. Stan brought more of a glitter and showmanship to it a little more, I think.
And the great karate, which you guys have in common.
That's what I'm saying. You don't even have to do great kicks like that, But he could do out a little bit, and that was great, So
Got a question here from Matty R. Which territory does Dr. Tom think Stan Lane had his best run in?
I certainly think. Well, they have to be Memphis and then Charlotte, but Charlotte was more national. So prior to, again, the Fabs always talked about, and people said they made more in their gimmicks some weeks than they did wrestling in the towns, and the towns were doing great. So I'd have to say Stan, and I think Stan would agree. That was I certainly think that was where Stan got his confidence, and he learned.
Saw the Midnights versus the Road Warriors at the Rosemont Horizon. Loudest match I've ever heard. Huge pop, I believe it.
Road Warrior pop, yeah. That's any team that worked with the Midnight Express, because they were great heels, and even when they were cheered, they knew again that instinct and innate ability knew what to do. And that was the kind of storytelling that made me want to be in wrestling, because I watched guys like that who knew their role, knew what to do, had the great feel for it and great timing, and it didn't matter who they worked with, because the Midnight Express I'm speaking of, they knew how to work with anybody, any style, any way, and that's talent, and that's valuable, because I don't know a whole lot of teams that I can point to today except for FTR, and they watch the Midnight Rock and Roll, and they have that same style, and it's like Tully and R and that kind of stuff. It's that same mix of whatever magic they produce in the ring. It takes all four, sometimes five guys to make it work, and no matter who the Midnight was in the ring with, they understood if they didn't make their opponents, then when they were getting heat, nobody would care. And nobody understands that these days. It's a simple storytelling. And that was those guys, from Cornette to Dennis and Stan and Bobby, all of them knew how to make the match work, no matter who it was. The Warriors, Doc and DiBiase, Rock and Roll. Oh my God. It was just, that was more, I think that was done a lot more then than it is now. And that's an element that I miss is watching those guys like the FTR, like that can have the same kind of matches with the same kind of storytelling.
Now, Mitch has a different take on the best Midnight Express. He says Bart Gunn and Hardcore Holly.
Okay.
The new Midnight Express, Bombastic
Sure.
Bob and Bodacious Bart. Yeah, what do you think about
Right.
that?
But I think, yeah. But I think even those guys will tell you that it wasn't the same. And I love Bob Holly to death, and I think Bart Gunn's a tough guy, and not a bad worker either. But he's a tough guy, and he's but it took more than that um because I think Stan and Bobby and Dennis, all three had enough experience, whereas Bart and Bob Holly were just kind of thrown together. I don't think they were feeling it either. Obviously, I know that was kind of a smart ass question or a smart ass statement, but I think we all know that Bart and Bob probably weren't feeling it either.
Bo says Dennis, Randy Rose, Norvell Austin as a trio were great as Midnight Express. I
That
totally
was
agree.
yeah, that was a great uh, trio with Midnight Express down around Continental and stuff. It sure was, but as it got later on, and Randy Rose, I thought was highly underrated. I really did. Norvell was great. So and that was chemistry between those guys. And how do you get that anymore? A lot of the chemistry came through road trips and just um, figuring stuff out in the ring, going out and having enough time to that's that's a lost art too. Getting in the ring and just figuring it out, having that opportunity, either with a veteran or a rookie, you know, somebody your experience level. So that's the way it used to be done. It worked a lot better.
Dave says, "Hi guys, hope all's well. I thought the Midnight Express was the best with Dennis. Cornette was the best with them back then."
Dennis, no doubt, was great with Bobby, and they were a great Midnight Express, and that was, I truly believe, thanks to Dennis being the veteran of the team, helping both Jim and Bobby um, learn and listen too. So no doubt. But when Dennis left and you brought Stan in, I don't think anybody would argue that Stan didn't add a different dimension to it. Not the same, and it shouldn't have been the same. But you took a guy that was a pretty gritty, hard nosed guy who'd cross face you and rub your face in the mat like Dennis Condrey, and then you bring a guy like Stan, who this good looking guy does the dance and the gangster love and a smooth operator type guy, come in and be able to fight in a different way, in a different style, different body language. It didn't miss a beat. There was the same level of excitement with a different twist to it. This is what I think. Dennis was great, no doubt. Um, but I don't think you can ever discount what Stan did either.
David Mitchell, Sweet Stan and Beautiful Bobby are the greatest version of Midnight Express. No comparison, in my opinion.
Well, fair enough. That's what I'm saying. But I will make the comparison that Dennis was that gritty vet, and that's the way he came across. And Dennis was that guy that once he got you down, he was mean when he did it. When Stan got you down, he was vicious, but it was a different type of mean. It was a different type of facial and body language. Stan, you knew, but he was that guy that was, perfect hair, perfect all that other stuff, and still sidekick you or give you a back fist karate strike, whatever it is. It was just a different style of fighting, I guess. And I don't think they missed. I don't think it was diminished at all. In fact, I think Stan brought something new to it. And
Just a random question here from Don. Do you think that wrestling will always be around, or does it have an expiration date? Whoa.
that's a good question. You know what? I think uh, it'll be around as long as people want it around, and it's always been a unique form of entertainment, and I think you're always going to have people who want to do it. I don't know if it'll be a whole lot, but you'll have some who want to do it and are willing to do anything just to get that fix. And then but I'm not, I, what form it'll be around, I don't know. But you might be seeing guys flipping pizza. And I mean, it's already gone to the extreme. Once you get so far over here, where do you cross the line or jump over the cliff? And when do you start coming back the other way? I don't know. As the world gets more and more smaller, we can communicate uh, instantly like that, and then you can now put on the glasses where it takes you to the metaverse, right, where you can touch things and everything else.
Yep.
What is going to be the appeal of professional wrestling? Why would anybody want to follow it, get involved in it, I don't know if that's even possible anymore, unless it just comes right back around to the basic storytelling, capturing somebody's imagination. I watched The Boys on Netflix. Have you seen this?
Amazon, yeah.
Or
Yep.
Amazon? Okay, whatever it was.
Yep.
Okay, every episode left me wanting to watch the next one. I'm going to go to bed. No, I want to watch the next one, see what's going to happen. And I'll say I'm going to bed after this, and it's like, oh my god, I got to find out
Yeah.
what's next.
Yep.
Well, I don't know that that's what we're seeing in wrestling today. I don't know if it's that cliffhanging anticipation or whatever. I know The Boys is work, but it's entertaining. They're great heels. They're the great baby face. It's storytelling, and I haven't seen it in a while in wrestling. I Somebody was asking me why it's so important to do promos or learn how to cut promos. Why is it so important? I watched on Labor Day, Monday, the first part of Raw. 15 minutes was Edge, Rey Mysterio, and Dominic and Rhea Ripley. For 15 minutes, it was a talking segment. That's why it's important. You have to know how to tell a story. Edge knows how to tell the story, even if the story was 15 minutes. I get it. It's just, what is it that's going to draw people to that as opposed to all the other exciting stuff people are coming up with, the metaverse or the video games or watching something else? What's going to hook people back on wrestling? There's 1 million people watching each show. Is that right?
Raw was up to 1.7 this week as a football. SmackDown was at 2.3. So
2.3 million?
Yep.
Okay. So why isn't it Attitude Era numbers? Like that was what, 6 million or 10 million or what were the Attitude numbers?
Well, when they were going real strong, it was anywhere between 6 and 10 million watching.
Okay. So why has it decreased? What changed? That kind of tells you something changed.
Other stuff is better on TV.
That's what I'm saying. So,
Yeah.
Will it come? Will it always be around? Well, it'll be around as long as people want it to be around. But if they keep making better stuff and it's not changing on this end, then what do you do? I don't know. I don't know.
I love this debate though, as far as Stan and Bobby. RB says Stan and Bobby. I mean Stan and Dennis, but he's saying Stan and Bobby had a better double team moves than Dennis and Bobby.
Okay. Well, I mean, I would venture to say they did some of the same stuff and thought about something else too, which was as a tag team like that. I can see that working because Jimmy was, as I said before, Jim Cornette is a student of the game, and that was all they had operating it back then. It was the tag team, and what are we going to do next, and what are we going to do to make this better, and you're on the road all the time, so that's really all you have to do. Just think about how are you going to not only stay at this position, but get to a better position or have something creative come along. And up until the time that I guess it just doesn't become any more fun being there. And you say, because sometimes when I would guess when it's not fun in a company like that, you are your sanity means a lot more, and you need to move on.
Speaking of that, does anybody know the reason why Dennis left? He made a comeback with Paulie Dangerously, obviously more towards 88 and 89 ish when that occurred. Dennis always was saying he was unhappy with there. There might have been some payoffs that weren't right. He seemed like he had some personal demons that he said he was going, having a little bit of those problems at that point. But he basically just like got up and left, and
Yeah,
like basically said, "Screw you, Dusty. Like I'm out of here."
yeah, and I don't really know. I've never even asked, but uh, I think it pretty much, without saying anything, says everything. Um, just unhappiness, and you don't nobody. If you've never been burnt out and you've never been unhappy in a place where it just was that unbearable, then you don't know. But nobody knows what's going on except Dennis. So that's that's the cool thing is uh Jimmy and Bobby had that understanding when he came back. It was listen, here's what was going on, and I couldn't talk about it then, but I'll talk about it now. And they sat and listened because it was out of respect and shit. It, everybody I think there understood Jimmy, Bobby, as well as Stan. I'm sure they get it because Jim and Stan had left before. Okay, well, uh, by that time now, later on we could talk about it. It's okay, we get it because it happened to us too. So yeah,
Jeff is saying any memories from Smoky Mountain, especially I think during the Stan Lane era there. Any memories? Any good ones?
great memories. I listen. Uh, Again, I was in Memphis. I've been there over a year, and Jim called me up and gave me an opportunity when there were no opportunities out there. So it was a chance. It was a chance to pioneer new territory, be in a great spot. I knew what the situation was. I knew what I was getting into, but it was a great opportunity, and I enjoyed every minute of it. You're working with the Rock and Roll Express. You're working with Ricky and Robert. I mean, my God, that's a night off every night. So it was going to be fun. It was a spot that I was ready to enjoy, and I enjoyed every minute.
RB is saying, nope, Dennis left to escape a paternity suit. I didn't hear that one. That's interesting.
Yeah, we don't deal in rumor and innuendo. You know that, right?
Sounds like somebody else we know that
Oh,
would
wait a
like
minute.
to say that as well. Yeah.
Hmm, I've heard that somewhere.
You remember that guy.
I've heard
Just an
it.
interesting thing with obviously Stan Lane, you guys team in Smoky Mountain, great team, Heavenly Bodies, almost taking the place of Bob Eaton, and you guys are becoming like the modern day Midnight Express, feuding with the Rock and Roll Express. But you guys took that to WCW and had an awesome match as Super Brawl, Rock and Roll versus you and Stan. And there was an awesome 8-man from a worldwide taping. It was you guys, it was Stan, yourself, Steve Austin, and Pillman versus Shane Douglas, Ricky Steamboat, and the Rock and Roll Express. I mean, some awesome matches. And if anybody can find it, I believe it's on YouTube somewhere, but that 8-man is great.
Yeah, yeah. That was again when Bill Watts was there, and and going to do the deal there with WCW, and it was like there it was, and then it wasn't. So, but it all worked out. It really did. Even if, and it's, again, I've said this before. Uh, when we went to WWE, I knew I understood what they wanted. They needed Jim as a spokesman for Yoko. Not a problem. That's great. So it was up to us if we were really that committed to be that committed. But uh, you get in that you get where you get sometimes, and you don't understand you don't understand until you get there. I get It's the best way I can explain it because I don't think going into detail means anything. But going back to Dennis, sometimes you're in a place where you just going, Jesus Christ, I don't know that I really want to do this anymore. So, it happens. And Smoky Mountain was a great place to go. It gave a lot of guys an opportunity. Glenn Jacobs, Unabomber, Al Snow, Jericho and Lance Storm.
D'Lo Brown.
Got Hildebrand, Chris Candido, Tammy. Right, wrong, or indifferent, you got some talent that came out of there that did pretty good. And so I got nothing but good stuff to say about Smoky Mountain.
Jeff's matches with the Fantastics were awesome, minus
Yeah.
the neck injury, but yes.
Well, yeah. Until, it's all right. I'm not upset. Just Jesus Christ.
Jackie Fulton, stiff bastard. Yeah.
Well, you said it. I didn't. No, but Jackie, come on, man. You got to look where you're kicking. And just out of nowhere, it was right in my face. I'm like, God almighty. Anyway.
Did you ever work
It's
the
not about
original Fantastics with Tommy Rogers?
Yes, I think we did. I think we worked them. No, Pat and I think worked with.
Oh, that would make sense. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. But I don't think we did in Smoky Mountain.
Mega Mouse says, I think Dr. Tom and Jimmy Del Rey generated the same kind of heat with the audiences as Arn and Tully did.
Well, which one was Arn and which one was Tully? So,
Ooh, good question.
good point. Thank you.
Yeah, good question. Whoever was Tully was definitely more the heat magnet. Tully.
Okay, I got you.
Who is better, though, really, Stan or Jimmy Del Rey, just as far as a tag partner with chemistry that you enjoyed working with?
Well, here's the thing. Once again, I've heard a couple of people say this. And to be a really great tag team, you have to really be a tag team. I mean, you have to travel together, room together, be on the same page, the whole thing. So I knew what we were doing as a team, but I was absent in trying to connect and do this tight knit thing. I knew what we were going to do. I had it. I understand that. But it was it wasn't this cohesive free bird road warrior connection. So with Stan, he had already been through pioneering and the fabulous ones in the Midnight Express. So he had already been with two high level teams. I'm coming on board, and we're a makeshift team. We know each other, but he does his thing, I do my thing. That made for we had respect for each other. When we went out in the ring, we connected, we did the spots, we got everything down. It was we worked great. If you watch the Super Bowl match, we do a spot, we come in and we go to tag and we collide, and there's timing, and that just kind of fell in place. That felt really good. That felt really comfortable. With Jimmy, I went out with Stan a couple times, and he's funny. He could joke, and we can talk about shit. But with Jimmy, we would go out, and it was a totally different vibe and energy, if that makes any sense. And you're asking me who was better. I say all this to say all that to say this. While in the ring, we were all on the same page. Stan and I and Cornette, and then Jimmy and I and Cornette. We were all on the same page. But I didn't notice. I noticed, again, it was a difference in body language, a difference in moves. Jimmy liked doing a moonsault. Stan stayed on the ground. I stayed on the ground. Jimmy could do the high flying. He brought a different kind of vibe and energy to it that Stan or I didn't. So that could be considered better or at least different. And the Stan Lane connection was more along the lines of I'm trying to explain it, John, the
Hmm.
best way I can, because when you ask me who was better, it was definitely different, but I don't know about the better. I'm just saying Jimmy did more of the I remember when he showed up and people weren't confident in him. And then he went out to the ring and he shocked everybody because he was smooth. He had the instincts. He knew he had timing, and it was like, okay, again, Dennis left, and Stan moved in. This time Stan left, and Jimmy kind of moved in, and it didn't miss a beat. I know I get long winded sometimes trying to explain stuff and over explain it, but I've thought about this before, been asked who'd you like better, Jim or Jimmy or Stan? I liked them both. We were all three different people. So anyway,
RB says he preferred Del Rey because he's a chicken shit heel and he was really good at it.
well, Stan can be a chicken shit heel too. But
Who do you think was a
yeah,
better dancer, though? Stan Lane or Jimmy Del Rey?
ooh,
Right? That's a tough one.
that's a great question. I might even have to give the nod to Del Rey on that one. That was
Crazy
heat.
stuff.
That was heat because he'd start dancing in the bar like that, and that was
Oh,
heat.
yeah. Yeah.
So
So,
I went the other way.
yeah. So 5/15/93 is the last time you and Stan teamed together and were in the ring together. Last Tango in Tennessee, Freedom Hall at Johnson City, Tennessee, for the tag titles. Loser of the fall leaves Smoky Mountain Wrestling. Obviously, Rock and Roll Express defeated you guys, but they pinned Stan the Man. He's gone. He just had enough. He wasn't making enough money, and he decided to go elsewhere. And actually ended up working for WB as an announcer.
Right. Well, that was again. That's what I'm saying. He would come. He would come to Knoxville. He was living in Charlotte, and I was staying in Knoxville. But he did his thing. I did my thing, and it was that kind of deal. He had already done the. I'm going to share over here. I'm going to do this. I'm traveling up and down the road, going 200 miles back and forth, and it was what it was, and I think that was it. He just was tired and ready to, do something else because he had left WCW to start this deal with Jimmy, and come to find out it wasn't. I guess it certainly wasn't Charlotte. It was just smaller towns and waiting a little bit longer to get a payoff.
Interesting question here as we'll move on to some random ones, and we got a bunch of them. Does Dr. Tom have a tree removal service? Interesting.
Well, I have not only a tree removal service, but I have a squirrel removal service as well, and possums. We get rid of possums.
Love that.
Mm-hmm.
Did Dr. Tom wrestle Rip Oliver?
Yes, I wrestled Rip in Texas and Oregon, and Rip was a very nice man. Very, very nice to me.
From the question mark. Interesting. Who would win in a bar fight, Andre the Giant or Haku?
Ooh, well, of course, the winner is the man who doesn't have to throw a strike or make a blow. But you know what? I think I don't see. This is very hypothetically, theoretically speaking. I don't think this would ever get to blows because I believe that both Andre and Haku have this Vulcan mind game going on, and they could connect with each other and say, "Hey,
They're buddies, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
of course, exactly." I don't think that would ever happen. Someone not
Hey,
even.
come on. The Colossal Connection. Great
Of
WWF
course,
Tag Team Champion. Yeah.
that's what I'm saying.
Eric Miller was Dr. Tom. Was Ric Flair the real deal like he says he was?
Yes, and then some. Have you been out with the Nature Boy?
Oh, I've been in the same
Yeah.
venue as him. Yes, yes. He's
Okay.
He's
Right.
something else.
You'll
Yeah.
concur. Yes. Yes. It's
Yes.
it's all that and more. Yeah.
Actually, my
It really is.
friend saw him. God, it was a couple months ago at a bar. That he was at an autograph sign in New Jersey, and it was this huge thing. And he
Yeah.
saw him at the bar, and he said, he wasn't crazy or anything, but he's like, you could tell he owned that spot of the
Right.
bar, and his beautiful blonde with him and everything else. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And as well he should be. Yes.
Did you get along with the Von Erich boys?
Yes. The times I was around them and I saw Kerry a few times in Alabama. But when I first started, I actually did some shots in and out of Dallas and Fort Worth and around there before I started October 79, so from November, December and through January I was going to places in Arkansas and Oklahoma, Dallas, some Louisiana shots. And yeah, I saw him there. Always got along with him. I saw Kevin, I guess 2 years ago at MLW in Dallas. He flew over for the boys. So
Interesting question from Bo here. Did you ever find Captain Spaulding's briefcase?
you know,
Is that
you know,
Captain Spaulding from Rob Zombie? Captain
yes.
Spaulding's that's
Is there,
oh, it-
do you know another Captain Spaulding?
it's from the Devil's Rejects and
Of course.
okay,
And the other one, I forget
House
those
of a
two.
Thousand Corpses.
House of Thousand, yeah, I think so. Well, you know, let's see how much. A strange thing happened one time. We saw Captain Spaulding come into we were in Indianapolis for the convention, and he was there, and some of us were sitting at a table, and Captain Spaulding came sliding in with some friends of his, and whatever, and I left, and about 3 in the morning, somebody came knocking on my door, and I didn't want to answer my door, but they wouldn't stop knocking. So about 15 minutes, and I said, "Oh man!" So I got up and opened the door, and there's someone there. I'm not going to say their name, and they have this briefcase, and they open it up, and they say, "Hey man, you remember he was at the bar? He had this briefcase." Well, he got up and left, and I said, "Oh, I'm going to go grab it. I'm going to steal it." And I'm thinking, what? So he opens the briefcase, and he shows me all this money. I mean, like it's actual money in the briefcase, and
Wow.
I, wow, right? And I said, yeah. And he says, can I leave it here? I said, yeah. No, 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 I'm not going to leave it here. And then he took it and got up and left. So the next morning, I go down to have breakfast, and he's telling me that he took this briefcase and he hid it at his work, and he worked at FedEx, and he hid it so nobody would find it at his work. And we see Captain Spaulding come into the restaurant. He doesn't seem too verklempt or upset about anything. So, well, that was the second red flag that kind of went off, because the first red flag, this guy wasn't really speaking. It didn't make sense. Why would you leave it at your work at FedEx? And I thought, well, that's odd, but maybe he has his own reason. Then we see Captain Spaulding, and he's not too upset. Well, anyway, long story longer, and even I'll shut it off right here. As I'm leaving and going home, this guy calls me up and he says, "I got to tell you, man, I tried to rib you last night, and it was all money, like they use on TV. It's make it looks like real money." It says this is
Yep.
stage money. When he sent me a picture of it, and so forevermore, people think it's funny to rib me about Captain Spaulding's briefcase, because it was three something in the morning, and I'm bleary eyed, going, "What?" And he opens, shows me the money. If you don't look at the fine print, you don't know it's fake money, because it looks pretty real. The TV money, okay, movie
Yeah.
money, whatever. Okay, so I'm glad we got that out of the way. All right, that's 2 minutes you'll never get back.
Yes.
Okay.
Our beats always go with the Island Boys. Always take Haku going back to
Oh,
the
I thought you were
fight.
talking about the Island Boys. Like Island Boy,
Oh
just
no,
an
no, no.
island. Okay, sorry.
In
Whatever
Houston,
happened to them
I don't know actually. They were like popular for a
for
while, and
5 minutes? Yeah.
then it's over. Jason says, in Houston, did you ever drive Andre the Giant around or grab his wine, beer, etc.?
No, I never did drive Andre around. Um, I did take guys to the airport, and but no, never did. Never took Andre.
What happened regarding the death of Steve Dahl? Don't answer if it's too personal of a question.
Honest to goodness, I really don't know. How long has Steve been gone? 10 years?
Ooh, might be less.
Less? Okay.
Might be less, but very young to.
Very young. Yeah, yeah. Uh, so I never
Oh
really
no,
heard.
2009. So I thought it was a little. I thought it was less. It's 2009, so 13 years ago.
13 years. Okay, yeah. So I think he passed away in Oregon, didn't he?
He died in Nashville
Oh,
from a
wow.
supposedly from a blood clot. He was only 48.
Well, the blood clots are pretty dangerous, so certainly possible. I don't know.
Have you ever done the flying toe hold?
I am an expert at the flying toe hold. Have you ever seen the flying toe hold, John?
No, no.
Oh,
I
you
gotta.
never have.
I gotta check that out.
I will. Well, I don't know. Not. You have to come from the old school. You have to. Only old school guys know the flying toe hold.
I read that you worked for the late Judo Gene LaBelle. What was that like?
Well, I actually worked for the late Mike LaBelle, but I met Judo Gene in L.A., and he was a very nice man too. Uh, he was. That's another reason why I really enjoyed LA, because you saw guys like Gene LaBelle, you saw guys like Dr. Jerry Graham. My first night in the Olympic, I met Dr. Jerry Graham, Red Shoes Dugan, Freddie Blassie came through to work with Tolis, John Tolis, and guys like that. But Judo Gene was always a very nice man. He was one of the boys as opposed to his brother, obviously, but very nice man.
Was there ever any talks of starting your rivalry back up with the Dirty White Boy in Smoky Mountain to pick up where you guys left off in Continental Wrestling?
No, because we were both heels at the time, and I was in a tag team situation, so it would really make no sense. Tony was going to be, I think, obviously, he was going to be managed by Ron Wright and work for the Smoky Mountain Championship and stuff like that. But no, never was.
Who had stronger hands, Judo Gene LaBelle or Danny Hodge?
Uh, I don't know from experience, but I've heard a lot more about Danny Hodges' grip strength than I have Gene's. And Gene, one of the tough guys, so a real tough guy, no doubt. And maybe once again, it might be one of those even Steven kind of deals with those guys. They both probably had that grip strength.
I don't know what this is in reference to, but Novak Djokovic is an awesome tennis player from
Awesome.
Florida, Hawaii, and Australia fan.
Well, it makes sense to me. I mean, why wouldn't he be an awesome, or she, or they
No,
be
he,
an awesome?
Novak Djokovic. Yeah,
Oh,
he's
he. Oh, okay.
for some
Oh,
reason they don't let him play, even though he's the best tennis player in the world. They don't let him play in certain tournaments because he's not vaxxed or something, whatever the heck's
because he's
going
not
on with.
vaccinated. Oh, yeah, yeah. I have heard about that.
Yeah, so I
Yeah.
mean, he was the number one player. He hasn't. I don't know why, what reference that has to do with anything, but that's
Well,
what they're putting out there. Oh, wait,
I read today that the World Health Organization says that COVID is on the we're
downswing.
almost through it. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
downswing. We're
Oh,
done.
that'd be
Yeah,
nice.
it's okay now.
They
It's
also
okay.
said this new generation of tennis players are amazing.
I like the way he's thinking. Florida, Hawaii, and Australia fan.
I don't. Very interesting though. Tennis out of
Yeah.
nowhere. It's kind of strike in here. But let's see here from Screaming Baboon. Did Dr. Tom wait, Dr. Tom, did Kenny Boland's little 5-year-old son kick you in the groin when he found out you were a doctor? We all hate doctors, but come on. Kenny Boland's son.
I don't know if he kicked me in the groin. I don't recall that, but not to say that he didn't. I don't really pay attention to some
Were you
things.
around Kenny Boland a lot back in the day or
Not a lot,
oh,
but they came to see us in Smoky Mountain a couple times. And when I would go to OVW, Kenny would be there. So I mean, that was right. Kenny, yeah, I guess a little bit, but I don't recall uh, his son
I'm,
kicking me in the groin.
I'm willing to bet it happened. I'm thinking it happened.
Maybe possible. but it was probably one of those nights that I just couldn't care less.
He said, "Ha, okay, thanks, Dr. Tom."
Hey, you're welcome, Screaming Baboon.
Did you ever work Roddy Piper in Portland?
No, I never did. I don't think I ever worked Piper.
Damn.
I know he slapped me around a couple times, but that was it.
Baron von Raschke had a good grip, and then Mega Mount Spike says Harley Race had a legendary grip. He won a game of Mercy against one of the most powerful men in the world, Bill
Kazmaier.
Kazmaier.
Ooh, man. Ooh. Yeah, no doubt.
Not a
Harley
great wrestler, but
Kazmaier?
unbelievably. Yeah, he wasn't that good. You thought
No.
he was good in WCW?
No,
Oh,
I knew
I was
him
going to
in
say, but awesome power lifter, though. Yeah.
yeah, okay. Well, yeah, great tennis player too, I hear. But
Hey, so is Djokovic. Yeah.
okay, there you have it. But I think he has this swine flu that he can't get approved for, or something like that. I don't know.
Did you work Billy Jack in Portland?
No, I was a baby face, and so was he back then too.
Man, you
But
didn't
I
work Piper, Billy Jack, or Dynamite Kid. Damn.
did not. No, no.
Did you
But
work Perfect in Portland at least? Hennig?
no, he was a baby face too, and he was only there a couple months when I got there and left. I think he went to New York. So
Raleigh. Remember seeing you in Evansville, Indiana every Wednesday.
Evansville was a good town. Evansville was had these locker rooms where you could go down these stairs and they had cells. It was almost like a dungeon. Yeah, in the locker room at Evansville. Very interesting place.
Yeah, weird. Final question here: is Crash Holly or Ken Shamrock Hall of Fame worthy?
Why not? Why wouldn't they be? Of course. Um, again, based on the Hall of Fame, what are the qualifications? What do you have to be to get in the Hall of Fame?
Liked by Vince, I guess. Well, maybe Triple H now.
So, if he likes Crash, I like Crash. I really, really did. I like Ken too, and I think Ken definitely has the credentials and to be Hall of Fame worthy. I think.
Ryan Cross and Jeff Luxon, I guess.
Luxon,
Luxon.
yes.
Say hi.
Well,
there you go.
please
From
tell
Joe.
them I said hello, Joe.
And Barbara wants to know, please, where can we get the awesome book, A Pro Wrestling Curriculum, Advice, Suggestions, Stories of the Expiring Pro, get to the next level? She wants to know where to get the book.
Barbara, that is a great question because all you have to do is go to jpwrestlingacademy.com. You hit the training tab on the top. It will take you to that book. You can order from Amazon. It's very cool. jpwrestlingacademy.com.
Of course, you can follow Dr. Tom on Twitter at Dr. Tom Prichard. You could go to his Pro Wrestling Tee Store or go to the JPWA Pro Wrestling Tee Store. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at 2Man Power Trip. Check out the website, tmptempire.com. Dr. Tom, what else got going on?
We're in the 11th week of the summer class, and we're going to graduate them this Saturday in La Follette, Tennessee at Southern Pride Championship Wrestling. I'm looking forward to it. Going to be a great night. And then shortly after, we're coming up on our last session, 10 weeks, JPWA fall session. And a lot of stuff coming up too. The NWA, New Orleans, looking forward to that. Hard times, if you will. So it's going to be kind of cool.
Thank you, everybody out there, for saying have a great night. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We'll see you right back here next week for Take It to School with Dr. Tom Prichard. We'll see you next